What's going on, everybody? This is your mental health coach, Royce Jones, man. Oh, we're doing another one talking about today is self esteem and self worth. Waiting for my counterpart, AJ, to get in here. But until then, how is everybody doing out there, man? I'm going to make sure that this is broadcast to everybody so that everyone can view it besides me. I know sometimes, man, I can get caught up in the moment. So I want to make sure this is public for everybody. So let me see here. Edit audience. It's already public. There it is. Boom. So what's going on? I mean, we got what is it? Christmas break. Christmas winter break for a lot of the students, the kids. Um, Man, we got Christmas coming up. We got New Year's coming up. How y'all doing? We here in Michigan. We don't have any snow. That's a feat in itself right there. Normally we would have some, and it's not even as cold as it normally is. So I think maybe Michigan got the corona. Who knows? But it's crazy, y'all. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. What's going on, Fawn? Oh man. But today, tonight, we are talking about self worth and self identity. Um, this is one of those subjects, man, that it can be challenging, man. I know for me, um, it took me a while to really understand what self worth and self esteem was all about, and trying to figure out my own self worth. Because I would put it in the hands of someone else. I would put it in the hands of, let's say, my wife or my girlfriend or another person, or society. I would allow society to tell me, basically who I was, and that's just not how it should be. And in thinking about like the topic of self worth, self esteem, you got to really think about the layers that go with it, right? So you got to take it into consideration culture. You got to take into consideration society, um, family lineage, your own personality, exposure, your experiences, your thought processes, whether it is optimistic or a pessimistic attitude, um, your resilience or your ability to bounce back, and then like your attachment style. If you're secure, insecure, like all of those things come into play when you think about self-worth and self-esteem. And I mean, it's we are layered creatures. Like we are people who, on the surface we just look, we could seem like we're happy. We could seem like we are, like we pretty much don't have any troubles or problems. But beneath that, there's so many things that go on inside our mind, inside our hearts, inside our bodies that you wouldn't even know. So, and then when you think about self-worth, it starts out when you're a child. So, when I was a kid, I was a middle child, and I had an older brother, younger sister, and my brother, it seemed like he had all the talent in the world. He could play drums. He played football. He, I mean, this dude could dance. I mean, my brother, I mean, he could do it all. And so I was like, man, like what's going on, coach?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I got, I hear you loud and clear,
I made
loud
it.
and clear.
The devil is busy. He is
Oh,
busy.
I
But we
prayed
here.
before this, so but we on, we on. So I was just telling him about, again, we're on the topic of self esteem and self worth, and I was giving him a little bit of background on my journey to self esteem and self worth, and I was saying that, man. I was a middle child. I had an older brother, younger sister, and it seemed like my brother had all the talent. I mean, he could do everything, and I was like, oh, what are my talents? What are my gifts? You know, what is it that I can do? And I
Mhm.
had a hard time trying to figure that out. And so I felt like I was in his shadow, so to speak, in everything that he was doing. And so I would try to play off of that and not knowing, like, again, who I was.
Mhm.
So as I continued to grow up, middle school, I'm still trying to find some type of identity, self-worth, and I refer to it, or I get it from what the latest trends. I mean, back then in middle school, I had the high top fade.
You
I
know?
I would dye my hair. I had finger waves at one point. I'm, I'm
Ooh.
I'm dating myself, but that's okay. I had finger waves at one point. I had to run DMC shoes, but all of that, you know, again for me, because I'm searching
Yeah,
for who I am. And then I grew up in the church, you know what I'm saying? So
I
grow up
know
in the
what that's
church,
like.
and I am singing in the church, we're doing plays, we're doing all of this stuff, but again, I still don't know who I am. I still don't
Mm.
have a sense of worth because it was never taught.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I mean, that wasn't something that we there's a scripture on it. Okay, self-worth, and we were talking about that. We didn't
Mhm.
talk about that. And so I'm gauging my worth again off of, you know my perceived value at church, my perceived value in society or at
Mhm.
school, my perceived value, in reference to my parents.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I'm still like battling this thing, and that's part of the reason why I got married, is because I thought that, okay, this woman, this was as good as it gets for me and
And
who
I'm
I
trying to do
was.
the right thing by the
I'm
church.
trying to
It's this way God said it's supposed we're supposed to do things in order, right? Remember, you're trying to fit in somewhere.
I'm trying to fit in. I'm
Yep.
trying to.
Yep.
So you take those layers upon layers of culture, personality,
Mhm.
all of this stuff, and I still didn't have an idea.
Mm.
I still didn't have an idea. And so I entered the military, right? Into the military. There's another layer of identity right there.
How old were you?
I was 20 when I got in the military.
So, married, 20,
Yep.
military right after, right? Okay.
Yep. I
Okay.
was married, got married my senior year in high school.
I got married right after the summer. It was about 2.5 weeks after graduation. So I can relate. We got a
Okay.
lot to dive into. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish.
See?
Go ahead.
So
Went to the military.
I went to the military, and now here I am, Navy guy, sailor, and I moved from Lansing, Michigan, to San Diego, California. Another
Mm,
culture shock, and so I'm trying to find out, like, yo, this is totally different from small town Lansing.
absolutely.
This huge, you know, city where you have, I mean, it's a melting pot of people, but majority of it is Hispanic, Latino. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm trying to find my frame of reference there. And it was I would say it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Really, it really was, because I got to see. Sometimes you don't know a lot of things about yourself until you're exposed to certain environments and things like that.
Facts. That's big facts.
Yeah, yeah. And so when I was exposed to that, I had to figure out things on my own, which I never had that opportunity here in Lansing.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And so
hmm.
there's another layer of identity there, knowing that I can survive on my own, like without anybody or anything.
So
And
your
then I was
wife didn't move with you. She wasn't
not initially, not
okay.
initially. It was
Not at first.
like,
Okay. So you had
it was,
time
it
by
was,
yourself,
it was
newly
like
married, 20 years old, breaking away from the church culture out in the sunny West.
yes.
So yeah.
And I'm there, and I'm just trying to figure out again, you know, um, my job, what the Navy's all about,
Hmm.
and still trying to figure me out. And then 2 years later, she comes, and we're trying to, we have our family, my daughter, my oldest daughter, Gabrielle, And again, then so fast forward all that, we get a divorce. I have two daughters. You know, it wasn't until I got out of the military in 2011 and I started school and everything that I really started to like, man, because I can't associate myself with the military because I'm out now and I use that
Mm-hmm.
as a form of identity. Now,
Mm.
what is my identity? Now, who am I? I'm no longer a sailor anymore. What am I now? Okay, well, let me get a degree,
Mm.
and now I can have some self worth or self esteem based on the degree that I have because society says you need a degree. This is what you need in order to
Facts.
move up that echelon of status, right? You know that
Mm-hmm.
this is how it's set up. And so I do that. Okay, no, I still don't. And then I get a bachelor's. Okay, mm. Get a MBA. No, but it wasn't until I started like working in schools. I started helping people as far as their mental health. I
Mm-hmm.
started, volunteering, actually feeding the homeless and things like that. That's when I started to understand and gain a clearer picture of my own self worth and my self esteem. And then also doing some more history as far as being African American and things like
Right.
that. And I was like, yo, man, like I'm not just this single layered person. There's so many things to me that I never even gave myself a chance to explore. I
And,
didn't.
and look, what you just said too,
Hmm.
you went from identifying with the church, being everything in the church, and you once you put yourself in a title, you start to identify and try to become that. You try to become the environment instead of
Oh,
absorbing what you needed from the environment to move on to the next one. So when you get out of that, you go into a marriage, new environment. So you start to try to be this perfect husband or what you think is a perfect husband or a righteous husband, whatever you're supposed to do, right? And then you go
right,
to the
right.
military. You
Yeah.
become so you identify with how am I supposed to be in the military? Like you said, how am I supposed to live out here in the West Coast?
Yeah.
Everything we do, it's like we think we are what we do, and you try to identify. So I'm saved, so I gotta act
Same.
saved, or so I'm in a relationship, so I gotta act like I'm in a relationship. So you see what I'm saying? So we become
Uh-huh.
instead of letting things pick the things that we experience and take what we need to take instead of becoming the things that we pass. It's like becoming like a chameleon. You start to conform to every environment that you're in, and you think it's your identity. It's
Yeah.
giving you pieces that will make up your identity, basically. But we, like you said, we're just going through life. So I just thought, I'm like, man, you like you said, you just named layers of what you were doing. See, I didn't do all that. I kind of was just a basketball player. You know,
Hmm.
I went evolved in levels, but it was like I didn't step into those are completely different realms. You went from military, different realm. A lot of us don't experience that. Then you
Hmm.
go into being a student now. So you start to identify as what? I
That's
gotta
just
act like a student, right? I gotta
mhm.
learn. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? Like you see how everything we're in, we start to be like, well, instead of saying like, how can I own this? How can I be the greatest man I can be in this marriage instead of trying to become the marriage? You know what I'm saying? So it just
Yes.
seems like everything you identify with, you try to become instead of becoming something and absorbing from something from every single phase of it. You start to just you think you're that. You think you're the title. You think you're just the mind. I have to tell my kids, I'm
Hmm.
a human being first. Let's
Yeah.
not forget. I had to remind myself because sometimes you be like, is that my mom talking like that? Yeah, I'm sorry, but I realized that I was a human before I was your mom.
Hmm.
You know, that's what I really had to say that out loud. If my parents had just told me that, cut into me one time, Royce, it was like, I was a whole person before I became your mom. So it's like I can be just your mom. I'm me. So I just thought that was just how you transition. Like you when did you feel like you started to identify or even realize that you were identifying yourself with each like new phase that you were in your life? You know what I'm saying?
Um, Actually, like when I got out the military,
Mm,
because again, it was like starting all over, like starting from scratch. Because you, so what frame of reference do I have? Because I haven't been to college.
mm-hmm,
I haven't had like, I mean, this was I was in there for 14 years. I lived and breathed the military. And now again, I have to go from one environment to another, or one so-called identity or way of identifying myself to another. And I think it's so important what you said is that in every environment or every stage of life that we're in, we seem to adopt that stage or that phase as our identity instead of allowing ourselves to evolve
Mm-hmm.
and being an
Mm-hmm.
individual. Like, okay, this is another layer that goes to who Royce Jones is.
That's good.
You know what I'm
Yeah, I like
saying?
how you put that.
Because again, like, no, I'm not just a person who's in the military. I'm not just a sailor. I'm not
Mm,
just a Christian. I'm not just a son.
mm,
I'm not just a father.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm not just a believer. I'm not just someone who has, has gone through life's changes and gone through all this. I am multi-layered. We are creatures that are unique. Like no, and this is the thing, like no one person is the same.
None. None.
There will never be another AJ Nicole on the face of the planet. There will never be another Royce Jones. But again, we seem to identify with all these things.
Mm,
You take a young man who is growing up, right? And what does he see in society? What does he see on social media? He sees sex, drugs, sports.
mm-hmm.
So automatically, for people of color, this is my point of reference for what I can be or what I can do. And that's it. And so, and even when I grow up, it was like, okay, well, I mean, if you're gonna play football, you're gonna play basketball. Okay, well, you can't play basketball. I wasn't blessed with the height, the height ministry and nothing like that.
The hype ministry.
I wasn't blessed that way. So here I am, 5'11", you know what I'm saying? So football. And so I'm playing football. And guess what? My grades. My grades
uh,
best. So even though I was talented, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't at that point in my life, I really didn't have that heart and really desire to do that.
wow.
That's what I fell through. You know what I mean? And that's how a lot of kids are right now. Like, well,
Exactly.
I'll do this, I'll try this, and we're experimenting with our life.
Literally.
We are experimenting every single day with our life, but and we fail to realize like you weren't here to experiment. You were created for a purpose.
Yep.
And so I think specific,
Specifically, you were designed on purpose for something specific.
yeah, that the world needed, that society needs, you know, like there are preordained, there are people out there waiting for you,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever that thing is. And so again, I got out, and again, I'm trying to identify myself in a different way, and it wasn't until I got into really this program as far as mental health counseling that I was able to see like, man, this is really my lane. Even though I knew myself as a giving person, as an empathetic person, as a feeler, as someone who can really empathize and relate to other people and help them with their challenges and things like that. But now I can put like a name to what I've been feeling and what I've been doing. Like for a long time, I've been this
You
person.
can call it something.
Yeah, I can call it something now. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
coach, Coach AJ,
Mm-hmm.
Coach Jones, mental health coach, mental strength
Mm-hmm.
coach. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Now we have a point of reference, but this was already in us from the beginning.
I became the coach, but I didn't call myself coach because I got hired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like he said. What is the scripture? He doesn't call the qualified; he qualifies the called.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not gonna like prematurely speak my title because a lot of people do. Like I just got on Clubhouse and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm so happy that I have no interest in talking right away. That's where my C comes in. I have no interest. I
Okay.
love to talk. Like Jackie Chan said in Rush Hour, I like to let people talk who like to talk. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Like
That's good.
I
Yeah.
love to talk, but like ET says, I don't like to talk for talking's sake. And when I'm getting in
Oh,
these rooms, people are literally the first thing they say is what they do, who they work with, how well they worked. It's just a big old, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's like you walking into the gym yelling your stats. You yelling, it's not even, nobody asked you, right? Nobody
yes.
asked you yet,
Ain't
but you
nobody
see,
asking
but it's
nothing.
because It's because people worship titles and who people know. So you gonna tell me that you got this relationship? That's like me walking into a room and just saying, "Oh, well, I know ET."
Mm-hmm.
But what if they don't know ET? Then what?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's people that don't know everybody. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh, yeah.
I just was thinking, I'm like, man, people need to associate that because they're so desperate for, I need to identify myself with something. And it's like you said, because I haven't found out what my gifts are, because then when you find out what your gifts are, it's like, what do I call this? If I package this, the title, you would think of the title once you see all the attributes of that title, instead of trying to get the title. And then now you're trying to scrap for the attributes. Now you're trying to figure out how to become that thing. When you really are becoming what you're becoming, you just ain't figured out your title yet.
True.
That's what happened with us.
Yes. All day.
I didn't ask to be a coach. I did not. Somebody told me you should coach kids. I was like, yo, I just don't think that's something I want to do, you know?
I told myself, like, I didn't think that I was going to be working in the school system, working with kids. I was like, working with kids.
Never.
I was like, working with bad babies. Little mother cuss you out in the middle.
The ones that talk back?
That talk back. Them jumpers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Never.
I love it. You know what I mean? And this is, I get so much. And the thing about it is, I was doing it for free.
Facts. Me too. Yeah, serving.
We were doing it for free. You know, and out of that, out of our heart, you know, this is what the Bible says, that, you know, your gift.
It's giving me chills, man.
Your gift will make room for you.
Facts.
We were operating in our gifts before we were ever getting paid for our gifts.
Didn't have no title, bro. Look, we ain't got no titles. We just showing up. No. I'm just showing up. And I don't know what position I play. I'm just in the gym, coach. I'm just working on my move. Do they ask you what position do you play when they going through drills? Absolutely not.
You better get on this line.
Absolutely not. It don't matter what position you play. You shouldn't be thinking about what position you play. You should be thinking about, do I have principles? What are my skills? What is my gifts? Like, what is my strengths? Because like you said, like, I'm gonna let you finish. Go ahead. My flamingo, is tapped in.
We flowing here. So again, when you think about identity, there's those layers that come with identity. And I can't just look at you and say, okay, this is Ashley, this is AJ. I need to ask you questions.
Yep.
I need to figure out like what your personality is. I need to figure out where you come from. You know, like all of those different things, so that now I can get a better perspective of who I'm talking to. Just like with me, you know, and I find myself even more so now. I used and I had to catch myself because I was judgmental, and I got that from being in the church. They could be so. But I really catch myself in how I talk to people and how I perceive them, or my perception of them, because I don't want to mislead myself and then misunderstand the person that's in front of me. Because again, I didn't know a lot of stuff about me until I really started. Again, I wasn't a reader in high school.
Me neither.
I did not read. If you would have asked me what book, I'd have been like, what? Maybe Green Eggs and Ham, Dr. Seuss, or something like that.
To somebody else.
You know, like for real. But now I read. Now I do research. You know, and what I found out too with the assessment is that, you know, I do these things. Why? Because I know that it's going to help someone by me doing. It's going to help me, and it's going to help someone else. So I'll read a book on, you know, on the emotional mind. Right. I'll read a book on, you know, post-traumatic slave syndrome. You know what I mean? I'll read it. Why? Because first of all, I need to have some self-identification with that book. And then after that, okay, now how can I apply this to someone else's life?
Right.
So yeah. That's the whole.
You can get lost in identity because that's not something that's not even something we discuss in our culture. That's not something we discuss openly, because it's a reason why people don't want you, because people get paid off you identifying with everything. People take advantage of people clinging on to being this or that or having people identify with certain type of brands and bags and
No.
nothing wrong with it, but this is a lot of people making a lot of money off people just identifying and attaching themselves to things and titles and do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel like you're operating in your gifts? Do you feel like you're strong? Do you feel mentally? Are you happy? Like are you at peace? Do you have joy? When's the last time you felt that? Because I think when you understand more of who you are, like you said, you don't identify with things. Like you start to have just a different understanding about what identity is in the first place. Who am I? That's like the biggest question that I was in my 30s when somebody asked me, who are you? Like, and I realized that it was like a trick question. You're not any of the titles that you think. That was the whole point of the question. Or people be like, I'm a mother and I'm a wife and I'm this, I'm a student and I'm an entrepreneur and no, you are a human and what is it? A spirit having a human experience.
Yeah, yeah,
Having
yeah.
a human experience. What is
Spirit.
your gift? What is the gift of your soul? What is the gift of your spirit? What are you here to express? What is the purpose of a spirit? I'm here to express and create because these are the things that give me pleasure. What, like I said this week, creativity gives you pleasure. He said creativity, progress, and completion. Those give you pleasure.
Yes.
You get pleasure.
Fulfillment.
Yes. And if you're in your gift, like it's a different type of pay. And this is why you see people get money for literally doing anything. And people get upset when people just get free food when they got the money. It ain't got nothing to do with it. It's I know who I am. Like that's probably why I follow ET right now, is because I never met nobody that just was who they are.
Yeah.
They wasn't no title. I didn't know him as a speaker. It was just ET, the hip hop preacher. I'm like, yo, he is his title. That's him. This ain't no cute name like for, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, it's just like a rapper. A rapper is J. Cole is J. Cole. Jay-Z is Jay-Z. He don't change his name when he goes in a deep. These people are literally walking into the room, Cardi B. Even though they get to be free, I'm not identifying with this or that. I'm identifying with who I choose to be. Why am I here? How am I expressing? Now, everybody got their own choice. Like you said, everybody's unique. But it's about me choosing versus something choosing me all the time.
Oh my goodness. And this is what I'm learning is that as soon as I know who I am, then everybody else will. As soon as I know who I am, as soon as I can identify with me and who I'm looking at in the mirror, everybody else is gonna know. Why? Because I'm putting it out there. I'm pushing it. I'm pushing it. You know what I mean? Because that's who I am. I'm being, not trying to be, but I am being. And that's what we got to get to. And I was looking at this. I was talking to my daughter today. She's so smart. That girl is intelligent. I don't know where she didn't get it from me, but she's just, and she was talking about, it's called conflict theory. And so conflict theory is you have two groups where they're at odds with each other, and you have one that poses as basically inferior compared to another, right? And so conflict theory says that that it will continue to be this way until one person says, you know what, there's some unfairness going on. There's some type of disparity that's happening between the two, and then when they discover that, then there's conflict. And so just like for our identity, we've been identifying with all these other things, and until we say, you know what, that's not me. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not this.
That's good.
So who am I? So therein lies the conflict. Like, really, who am I? Am I American or am I African? You know what I'm saying? And there's a dual, identity in that. So how do we identify with that? We have to raise some kind of conflict. Okay, now where do I come from? Who are my people? Where do they come from? And from there, we can start to ask questions that will give us more clarity on what our identity and who we are, but not just there. Then we can start getting into like self-worth. Like, who am I? Like, what's the value that I'm putting on myself, not the value that other people are putting on me.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you, coach, you know, so you've been in the foster care system. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you express that openly, and you've gone through some trauma. So that being said, what was your journey like in trying to have some type of identity for yourself and some worth?
Mm. Um, a very introvert thinking. I think my earliest memory was, and my mom, this is my adoptive parents. She says when I first got into the home, she was like, immediately I wanted to start doing things like cleaning and helping. And
Mm-hmm.
I now that I'm looking back, because I've assessed myself, I'm like, it was because I wanted to have good behavior because I felt like something was going wrong. And obviously that I didn't think I specifically did anything wrong, but I felt like if I did good, that
Mm-hmm.
I could go back home. That was, I think, unconsciously, I didn't say it, but that's what I was believing. So my identity before I went into this home, and I'm thankful that I went into this home, but it was two different styles going on. The home I left was very verbally affectionate, very words of affirmation,
Yeah.
gifting,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a lot of family activity. And I'm not saying that theirs wasn't, but the approach was very flamingo, if you would say,
Mm-hmm.
very open. It's I love you after every call, and it's always I love you, like this the last time, the first and the last time, every
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
when you get used to that, you're programmed from 0 to 7, so you get used to that. And I
Mm-hmm.
just remember thinking I want to get back to that. When I went to my parents, it's like it's just different. The style was different. I'm not saying that they said my mom, they from Blytheville. They're from Blytheville. So it's different. Discipline. We picked cotton when we was young. Wasn't much hugging, kissing, loving, and it was church. If you don't do right, you can go to hell. So there's two different things going on.
Wow.
Meaning now I'm going from, just extremely loving flamingo environment to more sea, more.
Structure.
It's about order, it's about the principles, it's about the standard of the church, it's
Mm-hmm.
about living your life right. It's about, both of them have their place, but going through this, immediately you have an identity crisis because I'm coming in an environment where there's drug dealers. These, even though they're drug dealers, they're successful to me. I'm young, they look happy, they look free, they can do what they want to do. First time I've ever seen gold, new
Yeah.
cars, convertibles. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. In my eyes, like you said, I'm identifying success with happiness, freedom, new shoes. You can go to the game. It just, there's no limitation. So when I come from this environment, I go to a working class, middle class, upper middle class work, and everything is limited. And it's more like frivolous. Like we're not spending frivolously. We're just, this is, everything's tight. We're doing things in order. There's
Mm-hmm.
no extreme high, there's no extreme lows. It's just right here. It's predictable.
Yeah.
And I think that caused me to be really conflicted because as I got older, I'm like, there's no way I could see myself living my entire life this way. But I also see the point in the structure. I see the point in the structure. But
Mm.
at the same time, there's no freedom in this. I don't see freedom. It feels like a prison. The church, God forbid, I love the church, felt like a prison. It just felt like one. I felt like, if I didn't do what the pastor said,
Oh,
he could put me in hell. He had me to
yeah.
the point where I felt like he told me,
People, I mean,
if I sit you down here on earth, you can't get to heaven while you sat down. I remember hearing that from his mouth. God rest his soul. I know he meant well, but that frightened me. So I have several things that are causing me. I want to go to heaven, of course. I don't think anybody wants to go to hell.
no.
But I also want to do the right thing. But I also feel like, how am I supposed to be okay with things that I feel like I should be? I can't just articulate. I would like you guys to be more affectionate, but it's not about you being more affectionate. You're just not my family. There's nothing
Yeah.
to do. If you did do that, you're
Yeah.
still not my family. So I can't say that that was the reason. So I'm struggling with, am I loved because they don't? I'm not understanding personality styles. I'm not understanding that this is, I'm just thinking I get to go back at some point. Once I realized I wasn't going back, I realized that I could no longer betray myself. When I became a preteen, when I'm starting to become conscious of things,
Mm-hmm.
I'm slowly having a struggle with what I feel and what I feel like is right. And nobody's giving me an explanation. They're just telling me do as I say. And I think this generation is 100 times advanced where I was even 20 years ago, because this is what I
Right.
was thinking. I was struggling because this is my life, and I can't be happy on and people could say, no, you can't do this, and go in their room and watch TV, and they're in their own free world. And I feel like I'm in prison and I'm in the same house. So
Yeah.
I think that really messed with me. And then it led me to running away from home.
Mm.
It led me to conversations that led me to running away from home. I initially wanted to talk through this because I felt like there's got to be a way to talk to people. I
Yeah.
don't know how naive I was, childlike. I just felt like this is crazy that adults don't sit down and talk things out. They just literally say no, and that's the end
Uh,
of that. I was like, how is this real? Like, nobody even has to listen. Who
mhm.
makes the adults listen? So I started to be challenged with that. And obviously my whole life, adults, period, not just your parents, but now that I'm co-parenting, like, this is all identifying. This is now I'm starting to measure how much am I worth if I have to go through this, or
Mm.
maybe I'm really not somebody that's lovable if they don't, or maybe I deserve to be in foster care.
No.
Maybe this was my life design, and maybe them not coming to games, they weren't in the sports. That messes with your psyche. Why don't people come watch games? And do they think I'm going to be successful? Do they care? If I can't get new shoes, if I need them, just certain things like that. I think you start to equate your worth based on what happens to you and how you feel. But just because you feel a certain way does not equal self-worth. But you see how emotions can make you feel like that. And I think that kind of led me to the trail of, okay, this is how you're going to approach relationships. Now you're looking for something to compensate and make you feel better, just about you identifying yourself with anything. Because like I said, I had no identity. So now I'm identifying myself with love, happiness, and whatever I think it is a process to getting there. I had no identity until late 20s, early 30s at best.
Mm.
Maybe.
And I'm thinking about what you're saying, because again, going from one extreme to the next, especially as a child, that's like two different extremes. You go from a necessarily unstructured environment where verbal affirmation is the common language, to an environment where that's not the common language, and
Mhm.
there's like extreme structure, to whereas now you feel like a caged bird
Yep.
and you can't express yourself.
Exactly.
And and I feel like both of those things were building and establishing your personality and who you are as a person.
Mhm.
And again, like, you have a frame of reference with the one, as far as the affectionate household,
Mhm.
and you also have a frame of reference or identity with the structured household. Because now, look at you now. You tap into your C when you need to. Do you stay in it? No, but you
No.
tap into it when you need to.
Mhm.
That's not something that is, you know, that you want to stay in per se, but you
Right.
understand that there are uses for it. And that's, again, part of your personality and your identity. But I mean,
Definitely. You need
that's
both. I see like I said, I see the value in both. And that's when you don't have to be, like I said, you got to be careful and not trying to become the title, and use what makes up the title. There's attributes that make up every title. A point guard does what? Point guard distributes the ball, they lead the offense.
mm-hmm.
You don't have to call nobody a point guard. You can just tell by what they do. You can tell when kids get out there and play, guess what? When coaches look at them, they be like, oh, he's going to be a great center. That kid's going to be a great point guard. They're not looking, the kid ain't coming to tell everybody, hey, everybody, I'm a point guard, And if you do that, you you don't know how skilled you are yet, especially when you're evolving. So that's why you should be careful to stop labeling yourself things, because the world starts to shape you because you're labeling yourself with the world's title.
Mm-hmm.
So now everybody expects you to show up. If I say I'm a speaker, I guess everybody thinks I'm going to be the same type of speaker as ET, or I don't want to be. And I realized that coaching came from me wanting to be a speaker, but I was like, let me not call myself a speaker, but what do I want to do? I started with mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was like, maybe I do want to be a speaker, but then I looked into what speakers do first. What
Mm,
is a speaker? Speaker is a way of life, like somebody that's speaking about things that they've done, experiences that they had. So
mhm.
you don't have to be a speaker. You talk. You know what I'm saying? Why do you ET doesn't call himself a speaker. He doesn't call himself a speaker.
No.
Other people that think that's a title call him a speaker. He is not a motivational speaker. He's a businessman.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what he is.
Sure.
He
Yeah, yeah.
can his gift is speaking though. So people call you a speaker. People don't just call themselves singers. I love to sing. I don't have to call myself a singer.
You're more than that.
Way more than that. Way
No.
more than that. I'm
Hey,
bigger than any title could be, and I think that's where we
you're
kind of
more.
get it mixed up. Is don't limit yourself with a title. Don't limit yourself with a title. And
And that's
because you can conform to the world's description of that title, that identity.
so. And take for instance, rap music, right?
Yep.
So there is a figure like this is what a rapper looks like, and now you start to see, a lot of people conform to what they say, to what a rapper, what baggy pants, tattoos, like what else? I mean, like
You
there's
need
so
jewelry. Now they say you can't. They told a rapper he couldn't walk around with no jewelry on. He was like, I don't care what y'all talking about. I can walk around with whatever because some people don't have to conform. Like people are, it's young people now that are starting to realize that people are trying to force an identity or persona on you.
you
And
have to
you're
be this way. This is the box we're
yes.
gonna put you in, and I need you to stay in this box
Mm.
because if you don't stay in this box, then I don't know what's going to happen to you. We can't control anything. Once you come out of this box.
Ooh,
So
I got a good example just came to mind.
go ahead, go on.
It's like when somebody gets in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking of me. I'm using myself as an example. When you get in a relationship and now it starts to become about what the person doesn't like you doing or what they don't what's it becomes about what they think you should and should not be doing. So now my identity is the relationship. When you no longer can think for yourself. This could be dating, this could be marriage. You are at no point just a husband.
No,
You're not just a father. Like my mom, parents out here, well, I live for my kids. No, you don't.
no, you
You
don't.
were born a
That-
single vessel by yourself, and you will go out a single vessel by yourself.
That's
You're
right.
not buried on top of people. Like nobody's like they not stacking coffins and bunk beds. Like that's just not the way it
No,
goes.
no.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just crazy that I just like I said, it's just crazy that I just realized that you can start to become something based on standards, based on what you think. It's just simple as that because innocently, we
Mhm.
innocently do this. Like as a kid, you want to be a kids come up like, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. No, they don't. Your parents are telling you the most successful careers that they think can make you the most money, and now you're regurgitating. That's what you're doing.
And see, that's what society or the system is set up to whereas okay, we're going to put you in categories, meaning um, low income, middle
Mm,
class, higher income. We need to put you in these categories so that we can identify you.
mm,
We need to put you in these geographical locations so that we can identify you. We need to put you in certain schools
mhm.
so that we can identify you. We need you to have certain jobs so that we can identify you. And so we identify with, again, our environment, our culture, our jobs, all of these different things when that's not what humanity is all about. But we've allowed the government and society to put these things on us without questioning it. This is where the conflict should come in. Like, okay, listen, like there's something ain't right with this.
Mhm.
I'm not just this person who is going to school to be a doctor or a lawyer. I'm more than that. Just like you said, I'm like a woman. You're more than just a mother.
Mm.
You're more than
Absolutely.
just a daughter. You're more than just a son. Like again, and this is where identifying with something that brings us that sense of like, yo, I feel this thing.
Yeah.
Like I really feel like and you have that passion for like coaching when you're coaching basketball. You don't just like even if they weren't paying you, you would do it. Why? Because that's what you love to do.
I was just at a tournament all weekend. They didn't have to pay me to record, and I'm not recording to get highlights. I'm recording to review game film. And I'm like, any parents want this film, you definitely can get it so you can talk to your daughter about how you thought they were playing and so
Yeah.
they can see themselves. And I'm yelling from the sideline because like you said, I got a passion for it. You aren't what you do. I think that's what people got to
Yeah.
get across. You are. You are you. And that's what people got to you are enough. You don't have to be something else. You don't have to become something. It's about you realizing more and more that one, you can become whatever you really truly believe in.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to believe in something, and it can't be what other people believe for you. And I think that's the true form of identity is, do you believe what you believe because you believe it?
Mm.
And because you can affirm this. Like when I asked, I was raised in the church, but I got to a point where I was like, so how do you know Jesus is real? How do you know? These are questions that I would have never raised my hand and asked in the Pentecostal church I was at, because they would have probably escorted me out. But I was like, yo, who's King James Bird? Who's the King James? Do y'all know that he wrote this? You know,
King
I'm they like, are you an
James,
atheist? No. I'm
no doubt.
asking
You
because
question it.
I was going through my own. I gotta make sure, just like Earl Nightingale said, you gotta ask yourself questions that you need to ask yourself, what do I believe? Why do I believe it every day? Just to make sure
That's
that
right.
you believe it because you do. Because if you don't, someone else is shaping your identity for their benefit. That
Control.
person that wants to date you. If you
Mhm.
look vulnerable enough and you want to be in a relationship enough and you've been available enough, they're thinking unconsciously how to shape you to be what they think a good wife is. And you too, unconsciously, are thinking about, you know how I know, Royce? Because I've done it. So
Yeah.
this is from personal experience. So nobody gotta be like, well, how do you know? Everybody don't think like that. Everybody has thoughts. Okay. And
You
we
know what
usually
I'm
have the
saying?
same
Come on, man.
type of thoughts because we live in the same society, the same
Yeah.
paradigm. So that means
Exposed to
that
the
we are
same
all
stuff.
about on the same frequency when it comes to what we measure and what we think based on how can this fit my life. And you're literally, instead of letting people be what they're supposed to be for you to kind of pick the pieces, you want them to conform to whatever you want them to conform to.
Mhm.
And you're conform to an idea.
And see, and the thing is, we're all created for relationships, right? But you need to figure out what type of relationship with who.
Mm,
You need to figure out what type of relationship with who, and don't base your identity off of the relationship.
mm-mm.
It first should be like, how can I give to this relationship?
Facts.
How can I add value to the relationship? So, so based on that, the value that I give to a relationship, I already need to know my own value before I even give it to somebody else.
I need to know what I got to offer.
I gotta know, because if I don't, now I'm entering this relationship and I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, you know, what is it that I can do for you, or what is it that you can do for me?
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be that way. But you know what? Again, this is how we were raised. This is how
Mm-hmm.
we were programmed. But now we have to have some type of epiphany or awakening. Martin Luther King talks about an awakening.
Oh
We need
yeah.
to have an awakening, like literally an awakening of who you are and who you were created to be. You're not like you don't even know who you are.
You don't. You don't.
You don't. And it's a process of exploration.
Mm.
Exploration. You know,
Yes.
every day I'm exploring. Every day I'm reading. Every day um I'm in the lab just like you are, reading some more stuff, trying to figure out, okay, wow, this was me. And I'm applying it to me. Like really doing that self introspection and like, okay, yeah, here's another thing that I can work on. Yeah. So so how do you help someone, AJ, who is single mother or just a single parent, or not single parent, it's the same thing, but a woman who's married, or anybody, a woman in general with discovering that identity and that self-worth?
Um, assessing, deep assessing, meaning your thoughts currently. I think taking people through their current thoughts because you hear a lot when you just ask people, so what do you think you're worth? And they'll start saying what they don't think they're worth. I think, and even me, I do this with myself because I have a child, and it's like, I have children. And it's like I'm not married, I'm divorced, and you know, you go through these questions of, why am I in this situation? So I'm assessing what I think, and then where is it coming from? Oh, you wanted it to be like this because I'm thinking about the kids. I want them to be happy. Blah 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 blah. So assessing, okay, what I feel first. Why? Because it's important to me, and I never expected to be in this situation. And I go through that whole process. I never expect get that out because you got to say it. Go ahead and say it to yourself because
Mm-hmm.
you need to hear yourself say some of the things you think. I think surface wise because you find out how untrue they are and how
Mm-hmm.
much is really out of your control. And you
Yeah.
realize what you can actually do. So it's like once you say that, um, what can I do? What can I do about how I feel? Change the way you think. Change the way you think. And I'm going through this process of what's not true. Ashley, okay, of course, but who else has done this? I see Sierra. I'm looking at Sierra and Russell Wilson. I'm like, if it can happen from Sierra going from the rapper Future to
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson and seeing that relationship, yes. I've
Yeah.
seen people
No doubt.
blended families. I can't get caught up in thinking that what I see and what I'm experiencing is who I am. So, and since I went through this whole process, I'm just trying to get people to realize how ridiculous we can be about what we think we see,
Yeah.
about what's possible for us. Because
Yeah.
you're identifying only by what you see on the surface. You haven't looked at the ingredients of anything. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you haven't. So, just taking them through that process of one, telling myself, getting it out there, just kind of saying it so they can hear it. Because a lot of the time, it's like I said, when I say it, it's ridiculous, and at some point, you just shouldn't say anything to yourself. If it's self-destructive, and I can hear myself too. So getting people to pay attention to one, the thoughts that come up, they're not true. They're thoughts. That's the hardest part, I think, to embrace for us as women because you don't get to call and vent to nobody. You don't need to. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to put it on the prayer board every day that you need prayer for your mind. Like, no, you're gonna do the work and you're gonna start. I don't care how low of a level you got to start. Me, I got so desperate, Royce, to I
Mm-hmm.
like get out of this space where I kept questioning, am I worth it? Am I this and that? You got to take extreme measures if you really care about being happy at the end of the day. Like you have to be able to assess, okay, my what I'm thinking, how I'm thinking it, it's not true, and repeat that cycle. I think that's the only way. And people think that doesn't work. I'm telling you, there's no way I would have had a program. There's no way I'd be here mentally. I don't let things take over the real estate of my mind. I just don't do it no more. So my whole process is teaching people how to pay attention to what's coming in and being able to look like, yo, it's not true. It's just like missing a shot. That doesn't mean you can't shoot because you're missing shots. You're being ridiculous saying that I can't never make a shot. I can't never. You ever hear people that say, I can't never do nothing right. It's always this or no, it's not. It's not always that. So I guess helping people build a thinking pattern in another direction and a system for that is probably the most important thing because really it's just repetitive thinking, program thinking in the wrong direction, and
Mm-hmm.
you're letting what you see equate to your value.
Yeah.
You being single does not mean that you're not worthy of a husband, but you keep thinking that way. You keep thinking that way. As long as you think that way, you cannot get married. And you
Mm-hmm.
do need to know why you want to be married. Some people are not ready to get married right now because you still don't understand the reason for marriage. You
Yeah.
still don't understand. And you're not ready to do everything that you think it requires. You're not ready to do that. You
Mm-hmm.
think it's supposed to be marital bliss, and people think I'm not gonna be arguing. I'm so fulfilled over here. Like you're not gonna meet people that have their own challenges, and you're gonna have to make adjustments. So I think getting people to think about what's possible repetitively and getting them out of talking about what they see because that's what we equate. We trust our senses more than our soul, and it's sad.
Yeah. And just going back to what you were saying, that negative thinking, like those destructive thinking patterns, those
Yes,
scripts that you
crucial.
have in your mind, that okay, just because one thing negative happens, so to speak, that everything is negative,
Right.
all or nothing thinking, that it's just a pessimistic attitude. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And having that, because we are creatures of habit, right? So over and over and over again, why now it's become from conscious to subconscious.
mm.
And now you don't even hear how negative you are and how destructive you are. You
It's
can't you
normal.
can't even recognize it because
Mm,
it's so ingrained in you because you've been doing it for so long. And that's why you go to a coach, that's why you go to a therapist to talk this thing out. So now we're gonna repeat back what you just said so that you can hear like how and how ridiculous it sounds.
yeah,
Because you
and you just need to hear it. Like you said, you just need to hear how ridiculous and really the person the coach is, like you said, we're just here to help you get better at redirecting your thoughts because the thoughts gonna come back. You
yeah.
gonna have thoughts of not being worthy and thoughts of I'm never it's gonna come back, but this is a constant redirection of thinking. That's why people get coaches. It's not easy to do in the beginning. It's
No.
not. It
Mhm.
is worth it once you keep doing it though. But like
Yes.
you got to get to a point where you like I said, sometimes you get hit in the mouth and you land on your face and you realize that I don't even know who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing and why. I don't know
On,
what.
on
As
your
old
face.
as I am and as accomplished as I have been, yes, I feel like I should. I got people older than me that I'm just so blessed that I'm doing what I'm supposed to because right, what if I was identifying and trying to be, in the originally I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. And then I got on
Mhm.
Clubhouse. Look,
Mhm.
literally last week and I heard the BET alumni room. I know how I fell in there. It was alumni with staff and I
Uh-oh.
thought I wanted to work in the industry. And when
Mm.
I heard what was going on
Like nah.
behind the scenes, I was like, "Thank you God." Cuz I
That's
would have been conforming to I would have conformed to those industries.
yeah, the
I was
industry.
too mentally weak. I wanted to fit in. I would have been God forbid let a celebrity want to hire me. I not saying I'm like I would have it just would have been I just know that I was too wanting to like a little child. I want to fit in. I
Yeah.
didn't have anything. I wouldn't have been firm on anything. I'd have been blowing just like the wind. Like
Hmm.
when you don't know who you are, it's like you don't have you're not anchored anywhere. You could be
Yeah.
you could get blown through the wind everywhere, attach yourself. It's like the sticky
Double
bandits.
minded.
You
Double
start to
minded
stick to
person.
everything.
Yes. Double mindedness. I mean, really, and you're saying
Yeah,
it.
that's good.
If you were to if you would have been exposed to that environment at the level of maturity, not the age, but
Mm,
the level of maturity that you're at, it would have ruined you.
yeah,
It would have
facts.
ruined you. Because you weren't there mentally. If I would have, because I was trying to do modeling. I went on like America's Got Talent, trying to try out for that and all. Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
brother, man, burn me. That would have burned me up. Would have burned all the. Would have burned me up. It would have burned me up. I wasn't mature enough.
Right.
I
That's a
wasn't.
fact.
You know what I'm saying? And I can honestly say that.
Me
I
too.
can honestly say that.
Me too.
And I'm okay with that. I'm good with it. You know what I'm saying? And you have to, again, we identify ourselves with a person, a place, or thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we identify with. And we hold value in that. Like in a person, like this person holds your value, this thing holds your value. So the fact that you have a Mercedes Benz, that's your value, right?
Yeah.
The fact,
Popularity, followers.
the fact that you're a millionaire, right? You can be a millionaire, and you think that because you're a millionaire, that's who you are, right?
Yep.
Because you are the CEO of this company, that's who you are.
Yep.
And we get so caught up in all of this stuff, and that's why you still have people who we think are majorly or uberly successful who still commit suicide
Facts.
because they weren't ever happy in the first place. They thought when they got to that level, that they would achieve some level of happiness, joy, and peace, and it never did. It was never meant to. It was never meant to. But that's what we do.
You are
Society
not
does
what
it.
you do. You are not what you do. You are not what you do. You just as bad as you could want to be that you're not. Like when somebody asks you, "Hey, how are you? Who are you?" I don't say I'm Coach AJ. I just introduce myself. I see ET do it all the time. He introduces himself to people that already they come up to him and be like, "Hey, my name is Eric." I literally introduce myself as myself.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask me what I do, I may tell you, but I'm not gonna be like, yo, I published a couple books. You know what I'm saying? I got a
Oh,
podcast. I'm not a walking promotional machine. I want you to know who I am and whatever I have done or whatever I do. If you love who I am and the energy I carry, you're gonna want to know about whatever I do. Just like I would want to know
mhm,
about what you do. I don't really. It's nothing wrong with people telling people what they do off rip, but it's just like, who are you if you're not telling people what you do and what title you carry parenting? Who are you?
mhm,
Who are you? And this may be going a little left. Like my cousin, he's a gay man, and I remember a few years ago we had this conversation, and it was about identity.
mhm,
And I asked him, I said, and I'm not this no this is people get to choose how they want to choose. But I asked him, if you couldn't identify yourself as a gay man, what would you introduce yourself as?
mhm,
And he couldn't really tell me anything because
mhm.
I'm hearing people so want to identify with and it's not wrong with the LGBT community if that's what you do. But what I see is some people
They want to
don't
be a
have
part of
anything
something.
to identify themselves with, and this is the first time in your life that you've been able to identify with something collectively. It's no different than somebody wanting popularity because everybody wanted to be. Once you see how popular kids are treated, who wouldn't want to be treated that way? Who wouldn't want to? So we
Yeah.
naturally think that being popular, when you don't talk to the popular kid and see how they're backstabbed and how people treat them when they're not popular anymore,
Come
you
on now.
don't know what it's like. But we naturally see something. You see somebody with a man that you like, oh, I wonder what kind of husband he would be to me. All right, he'll probably treat. It's
Oh,
people that look at people and be like, man, he looks
yes.
like, I didn't know he would be that type of husband, or I didn't know she would be that type of wife.
Straight up.
Because what do you identify with? You identify with what you see. And that most of the time is what gets us in trouble. What's in you? What do you say if you're not this? Who are you if you're not introducing what you do?
Yeah.
Who you with? Where you've gone? Who you done work with? Who you know? You know what I'm saying? Who are you without none of that? Who are you? If you can't answer that question, it's time for a deep dive. It's
Yeah.
time for a deep dive.
Yeah. 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 That's good. That's good. You're not what you do.
Mm-mm.
Again, when you introduce yourself, who are you? The bare bones. At the bare bones, at the end of the day, when you lay down in your bed and you fall asleep, who are you?
Mm. Mm.
Because at the end of the day, you stuck with you. You ain't taking nothing with you, nobody with you. It's just you. And and what are you gonna say? Who are you? Yeah, this has
Hey,
been good.
I'm gonna encourage people to, even if you think you know, because you're constantly becoming, like me and Royce do. I'm sure you ask yourself often because you can't coach people without asking yourself these questions.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? You got to remind yourself. Yeah, you got to remind yourself. I'm a spiritual being having this human experience, and I'm absorbing. I'm learning. I'm being. And I heard, and this is I don't know. He was a rabbi. I just listened. I'm studying,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that the body borrows from the soul. I thought that was very interesting. I thought
Wow.
that was very, very interesting. He said the bar, and he described the soul as being the personality, the thing that feels, and that's the obviously the life force, and just
Mm-hmm.
how he described what he described as far as what the spirits in heaven do and the spirits here do. He said the spirits in heaven, they identify God wants to serve the souls that are already in heaven. He wants to serve them. The reason why we want to be on earth, he said, is because we want to serve God. Because you're being served in heaven. God's taking care of everything. Everything's
Yeah.
perfect. You don't have to worry about everything's perfect. But here, you want to be here. Your
So
spirit knows all the things that it doesn't, all the things that are going to come against making you believe that you're not the spirit, that you're not the source here to create.
mm-hmm.
What did I say? The three things that are pleasurable: creating,
Mm-hmm.
progressing, and completing things.
Yeah.
You know, like whether it be coaching and helping somebody complete something, taking groceries into somebody's house,
Yeah.
acts of kindness, acts of love, acts of service. Like that is really truly living and identifying with something. So, what can people say you've done that doesn't cost you money? That's who
Mhm.
you are. However, people describe your presence. And if you want
Yeah.
people to improve that, then maybe them people that describe it probably don't need to be the ones describing it. So you, like I said, it's about, am I being my fullest self? Do I know who I am? These are questions that I feel like you your life just begins when you start asking these questions. Like I said, I 5 years ago, I was puzzled when somebody, I think you asked me a couple questions during the assessment when I first took it, and I was puzzled. I told you I was like, I had never been asked these questions before. I don't know.
Hmm. And that's awareness is it. Awareness is key.
Key.
Awareness is key, and we have to come to a point where we start to ask those questions about ourselves, not in a judgmental type of way, but in a graceful kind of way, in extending ourselves, some grace because we haven't known, like you
Hmm.
didn't know. And so now that you're able to know, okay, give yourself time to adjust. Give yourself time to really come into that state of being where now you're not, trying to be for everybody else, but you're just actually being who you are. And when you
Right.
do that, you have that sense of peace. You have that sense of, you know, I don't have to please everyone.
Mm.
I don't have to be everything to everyone. You know, and then we talked about it last Wednesday. You know, perceived and actual value.
That's good.
My value is what I say it is, not what you think it is. You know, um, and yeah, that's it. That's it, Coach. That's it.
Yep. Well, we got, like I said, this is an ongoing topic.
Mhm.
I'm encouraging people to get the assessment. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
and
get
if you already have the assessment, it's a matter of how often are you assessing yourself. Don't just have the assessment and be like, oh, I'm done with that, because most people do. You get the report card, you stop looking at the grades, you like next. Yeah, look at the chart, look at the stat sheet, see what's what, like what causes you to like look at yourself a different way. What causes you to question yourself? Like, are you even curious about yourself anymore? Some people have lost the curiosity. You've lost even asking. You think that asking yourself questions is meaningless. It's not. It's
I
very
had,
important,
I had,
so go ahead, coach. What you say?
Coach Ash, man, I had to write down in a notepad in my notes, like all of my destructive habits.
Mm,
I had to come to grips with that, and a lot of people they're not ready for that. So if you're not
yeah.
ready for that, then you're not ready for change.
Mm.
If you're not ready,
Write all your destructive habits down. That's good.
yeah, write down all those destructive habits that have gotten you nowhere.
Mm.
It keeps putting you back in the same place every single time. I had to put all those things down. I had to say, okay, these are the habits. Okay, now how do I break this habit? And the thing about habits are about replacement. It's all about replacement. I need to replace this with this. I need to replace this one with this one. I need to replace this one with this one.
Yep.
Habit replacement. But I had to write all of this down so that I could be real with myself and say, you know what, change requires change, and change
Yep.
is take some work. Just like it took you however long to form these habits, it may take you that long to reform them and to throw those out and to reframe them into something else that's going to be more beneficial for you. However much time that takes, I don't know, but you're not in it alone.
Facts. Definitely not.
Not in it alone. There are people out there who are willing to help. Coach AJ, myself. There's other people that are out there who are willing and ready to help. But you got to take the first step. You got to say, you know what? I don't think of myself in a healthy way. So the World Health Organization says that to be healthy, you have to frame, you have to reframe your, or you have to be healthy in physically, spiritually, and mentally,
Mm-hmm.
right? In all those different areas, right? So all of those together equals health. So, but most of us, and they say 70 to 90% of the people aren't healthy.
Mm.
They say 70 to 90% of the people aren't healthy. Why? Because mentally, physically, emotionally, they're not healthy.
Not at all.
Not healthy. So that means seven to nine people that you come in contact with are living an unhealthy lifestyle.
That's some crazy numbers right there.
You know what I'm
Majority of the people we come in
saying?
contact with,
Majority of
and
us
you
who are
would never
walking
know.
around here are unhealthy. Why? Because we have mental habits that are unhealthy. We have
Mhm.
emotional habits, and we have physical habits that are unhealthy.
Would never know, and we would never know.
Because we don't
These
talk.
people pass by us. We know them. They're in our house. Some of them are in our house.
Oh yeah.
Kids could be walking around here depressed.
Because we don't
You
ask.
never know.
We don't ask the question. We're not curious enough, or actually, we don't have that state of empathy and just caring for humanity where we can say, you know what, man, I really want to know like how you doing. Like I
Hmm.
don't want you to just tell me I'm good. No, I'm asking like, so so what's going on?
Right.
Like really, what's going on? And then that's when and they'll sense that they're like, okay, you know what, he ain't playing, she ain't playing, and they're like, you know what, this is what's going on.
Yep. So
So
we got to pay closer attention. So if you're a coach, if you're somebody that is feeling mentally strong, you feel like you got a good sense of your identity, because we're not assuming everybody don't know, but we're all checking and making sure we're strong, we're firm, and that we're on path to whatever we're trying to become, and we're not on somebody else's path.
that's right.
But for those that feel strong, definitely, like you said, be paying attention to what you come across, because most people, they're not going to look like it. That's why you ask questions. When you ask questions, people break down right then and there. We had kids confess to being molested the first day of mentoring at Sexton. They just cried. They was waiting to be asked these questions. What's happened to you? Did something happen to you? What makes you act like this? I'm not a therapist, but I'm like, honey, what's wrong? What is wrong? What are you unhappy about? What is wrong? Like what's going, and they've been, it's just a question. Like iRobot, he said, you're not asking the right question. A lot of us think about what you're asking, and don't ever get discouraged by somebody rejecting a question. Be better at asking the right questions. Be
Yeah.
okay with learning how to ask the right. It's a whole book called The Art of Communication. You should try it. It's free on YouTube. It's the most insightful book I've ever heard, and it makes me think about how I think about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be communicated in a certain way. No wonder I can't hear certain things from people. No wonder they can't hear it from me. So, like you said, our identity got to do with the people around us. What are we taking from people's identity and placing on our own? How are we valuing ourselves based on what we identify with? And then, most importantly, make sure I'm assessing my own mental strength, because that has everything to do with what you identify with, and how far you go mentally, period. So you got to do all three. So I'm glad we doing this, coach, and you already know you can get with both of us.
Yeah.
We got a body, an army of people that we can out. If we can't look, if I ain't the right shooting coach for you, oh, best believe we got some people that we connected to that you can get what you need. Like this is literally, I feel confident enough to say that anybody that needs our support in any area of their life, if we can't help you, we got somebody that can.
Yeah.
Facts. There is people that are waiting to help you with whatever. It don't matter what it is, and they will never shame you for
Oh,
anything you've ever done, whether you talk about it or not. I know people right now, Mama Lisa. Shout out to Mama Lisa.
she was
I
on
mean, if
too.
I don't
Yep.
know
Oh,
anybody
Lisa on the
else, I know Mama
show.
Lisa. I can
Oh,
tell
well,
you, she will feel like your own mama when you need. And
that's
I'm
why,
talking about
that's why I call
no,
her Mama Lisa.
you know what I'm saying? It's just, that's the body of APOC. But I'm telling you, if you haven't found one person that you met that you just feel like, because you got to get beyond shame, that's an identity crisis. Shame, guilt. all of that. So reach out to us. Don't take these lives lightly. We're not just doing this. I mean, I would love to, just to make it, we just want to be seen like that, but that's not the case. I really want to serve. I don't want to be seen. We want to serve. So allow us to do that. Don't take it lightly. Message either one of us. Like I said, we both be happy to do your deep dive session or give you the assessment, or your family, your group, your team, whatever. We all need to be able to look out for each other. And I feel like the way the world is moving, if we don't, we're not going to be here. And it's simple as that. You won't be here if you're not, one, identifying with who you're supposed to be, and then being what you're supposed to be for everybody that needs you to be.
Yeah.
That's your duty. And if you're not going to do that, there's no point in you being here. There's just no point in you being here. So if you're not making someone else's life better, you're wasting your time, as Will Smith says. So that's my note.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I don't need to say nothing else. Yeah.
We back on Wednesday then. Instagram.
We on IG, y'all. So
we going in
at 7
o'clock. Yep.
7 o'clock. Last Wednesday was.
It's still popping. They still commenting on the video. Still, it's popping. Go watch it. Go watch the last video on IG.
Yep.
So go watch the last video.
Page, on IG. Oh yeah. Tell them your where to reach you at.
You can hit me right on this page, or Coach AJ. I got a Facebook page, Coach AJ, but you can message me here. I'll make sure I tag the information below, but I think I have everything in my profile. So please come over wherever you tag us, comment, we're going to see it. And I would love to connect with you. Sometimes the messages go to my, I guess if we're not friends, they go to some other inbox and I have to go randomly check that. So if you are one of those people, don't go to the inbox, write it on my wall. You can go to the inbox, but if you don't get a response, I want to see it, write it on our wall. So don't feel shame. Please, we always looking for family, ain't we, Royce? We always looking for family.
The right kind of family.
Yeah, the right kind of family, right? If you ain't the right kind of family, we're gonna lead you to the right family. You know what I'm saying? That's what I can do. I can always lead you to what's best for you in the space that you're in. You know what I'm saying?
Not it, then somebody else is.
On that note, we back on Wednesday. So we'll be back next Sunday too. We'll have our prayers for Lakeisha, her family, as she just recently lost her father. She normally blesses us with her presence. So just if you don't have to know her, to send up a prayer and cover her family. Shout out to Lakeisha and your family. We're here with you. We're praying. Shout out to Willie because he's not here either. But we'll be here as a squad next week earlier. So thank you, Royce, for dealing with me on my travel escapades and me getting back on time. So I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, we are flexible. So like this, share this, and then just tell everybody, listen, we'll be back next Sunday again. And then me and AJ will be on IG on Wednesday at 7 p.m. So check us out, y'all. All right. So, hey, have a blessed one until we meet again. Peace, y'all.
Let's go. All right, Coach.